these students before they leave me is, try to give them a really different and kind of a unique learning experience, something that's, maybe not so normal in the curriculum, and take a little chance, right? Be a little provocative. And so this group of students will be the second group in our second year, working with the Sustainable Cloth Challenge as Molly is busily working on her cardigan, I'm sharing as we go through this. So, some of the things that they've done already, we've been in school now, this will be our 5th week coming up. So they've been busy doing some research and gathering kind of the beginnings of their story. So we've had conversations around the cultural value of fashion, and giving fashion a more public understanding that goes more than or beyond just clothing. In our classrooms, we approached fashion as kind of a critical discipline and a philosophical way of engaging with the world. We know we all get dressed, but there's a consciousness behind that. So these students have been pondering some, really critical questions as they try to consider and maybe imagine, even conceive the kind of connections they can make, fashion to ecology, fashion to social issues, fashion to economic issues, and again, fashion to cultural issues as well. With this challenge that they have, because we'll be doing the Re-envision challenge, I've asked them to consider the beauty of scarcity and to also think about how to deconstruct and redefine value and values. So we're trying not to have the focus just be on a garment as the outcome, but on how their research informs their design thinking. Yes, we've had some complicated conversations. It's been great to build up to this point. And so they are now responding to, like I said, some provocative situations and issues, not just in the fashion industry, but in the global textile industry as well. And so what these students have, I think, and I think hopefully they'll inspire you, is some messages. How will these messages convey how they collectively can create a bigger ripple effect? And I'm hoping that their stories that these 6 students will share with you now will contribute to hopefully to some inspiration for you today as well. So this is the lineup, and we're going to start with Inez and then go to Katie, Peyton, Ella, Nina, and then wrap things up with Emma. So Inez, are you ready?
Okay, hello, my name is Inez Brito, and the item that I will be using is a tablecloth from Ecuador. This tablecloth comes from the Andes region, and they normally have colorful designs. They are also made of cotton with traditional sewing techniques from the Andes. This tablecloth has been with me since I was little, but we mostly use it for decoration purposes. My main theme for this project is food and fashion. Kind of wanted to implement the idea that food and fashion are similar to each other. Just like a chef prepares the ingredients and is able to create like a whole new and original recipe, a designer can do the same thing but with fabrics. As for my story, I kind of want to talk about how I was raised with 3 different cultures at home. Being born and raised in Ecuador my whole life, my mom being from Venezuela, and my grandfather being from Italy. For example, like eating arepas for breakfast, eating ceviche for lunch, and then having risotto for dinner. Even though I was raised with different cultures at home, there was one thing that kept us together, and that was the food. For like food in general is used to forge closer relationships. Even if we didn't speak the same language, food will be our main language, sitting together at dinner and enjoying each other's company while talking about our days. I was able to take inspiration from an Ecuadorian poncho and kind of making it in my own way. I also took inspiration from Elsa Schiaparelli's collaboration with Salvador Dali to create the lobster dress. And with that, I kind of wanted to implement rice somehow in my design because rice is something that each culture has similar. Thank you.
Thank you, Inez. And the students will love to answer questions after we're all done. So have some questions for them, please. Katie.
Hi, my name is Katie. So in this first picture is a top that is from like 2013. And as weird as it sounds, my grandma and I used to share clothes. And that was one of the tops that we would share. And I found it in like an old pile of clothes when I was like going through donating things, going to sell them to Buffalo Exchange. I found that top and I was like, man, I really loved wearing this like 10 years ago, but I don't really like how it looks on me anymore. But I don't want to get rid of it, but I do want to get rid of it. And then I started thinking about this class and I decided to take that apart and kind of use that in my patterning. So I have a few more sketches. Well, the first one and then those. So for what I'm actually using for my material is bed sheets that I had, and then that were in like my aunt's and my mom's Goodwill pile, and then I thrifted a few as well. But I wanted to create a dress that was symbolic of people that I love and people that love me. So it's going to be a white dress, as you can see. And I'm using the original bodice to extend a little bit and have like a lowered, more of like a tight fit. I removed the peplum. And I'm kind of figuring out the skirt part, but yeah, I wanted it to be very simple, yet a statement dress.
Excellent. Thank you, Katie. Peyton?
Hi, I'm Peyton. The garments that I'm using for this challenge are a suit set that is 100% silk. That was my mom's. She bought this when she first moved from Ohio to Richmond, and she had a really big contract that she was going to sell to the Science Museum of Virginia. So she was working with Dominion Energy, and she sold this big contract, and this is what she was wearing in that meeting. And it's like a symbolic of like a really big time in her life where she was new to the company and the new girl in the office. But she like was really good at what she was doing. And so it was like a proud moment symbol. And that's why she's kept it all these years. And so I'm going to play with her story and preserve like professional woman, new to what this looks like for her. And so I want to preserve that story while also playing around with like, what does it mean to ask questions of one another? Like I had seen this in my mom's closet many times, but never knew like, why does she still have this thing that doesn't fit her and she never wears? But when this project came along and I started asking questions, like more questions started coming and I started learning a lot more about my mom. And so like these clothes were a way of connecting with someone that is really close to me and like how can I make something that will help people ask questions and show people that garments can be a way of connecting with one another. And also like if we were to ask questions of like what we are wearing, maybe like the injustices and waste in the fashion industry would be a little more limited and like brought to the light more, and we would actually be thinking about those things more. So I'm deconstructing everything by hand. And you can see these are all of the pieces of the suit. And as I'm like deconstructing it, it's really like painstaking work, but like I'm like learning more about the garment and like I have more questions. Like a button was missing and I asked my mom, why is this button missing? And there was like some dirt in the hem and I was like, where were you around sand? Like, where did that come from? So like being really intimate with these garments is making me learn more about them and more about my mom.
Wonderful, Peyton. Thank you. Ella?
Hi everyone, I'm Ella. So the fabric that I'm using for this project is actually a linen tablecloth. It was hand loomed by my grandma's dad, or that side of her family, around like the 1900s. So yeah, it's very old. There's some stains on it. But yeah, basically for my process, I am just going to drape the whole thing. So these are a few pictures of my draping process. It's been ongoing. There's been some back and forth. It's still in progress. But I think I want to, in the end, just hand stitch the entire thing and really just kind of embrace the textile itself. And I guess throughout this, you kind of I guess you think about the actual material that you're using way more because you understand the amount of time an effort that went into actually hand looming. Sorry, I have birds, they're really loud. Hand looming the entire thing. So I didn't want to cut any of it. So the entire thing is draped, zero waste. And all the edges are actually hand stitched down too, by my grandma's family. So I didn't want to cut into any of that. And yeah, I'm going to try and drape it so that it kind of accentuates all that hand stitching. So like in the bust area, all of those edges are hand stitched. So I kind of wanted to just put that on display. But yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ella.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nina. So the fabric that I'm using is a vintage silk velvet that my dad had got for my mom in the 90s. And this is two pictures of them. The one on the left is them in 1987, and the one on the right is their 15th wedding anniversary. And my mom said the fabric came somewhere in between there. So she got it in the 90s, and I wanted to use my mom as my inspiration because I always just looked up to her, and she was the ultimate woman to me. She worked and she always made sure that she was there for me and my siblings, as well as my dad, but I really wanted to hone in on my mom for this one. So I wanted to make a timeless dress that's more fitted at the top with gathers on the skirt, and I have some darts in the waist or in the side seam for some fit, and I'm still draping and sort of figuring out what I want to do for the bodice there.
Fantastic. All right, Emma, you ready to wrap it up?
Yes. Hi, I'm Emma. So I'll start off with like my inspiration because when I first heard about this project, I kind of had a lot of differing ideas, but I wasn't sure how to kind of put them all together. But after talking to Miss Guthrie about it, I was telling her about my grandma and about her mom, who was actually a fashion designer, but that was more of her like side job. So she created all of these clothes for my grandma and all of like the girls in my grandma's neighborhood. My grandma never had to buy any clothes because her mom made it all. So I've been, for the past few years, actually, I've been trying to create a story out of that. Her name was Eugenia Giovino. And so Miss Guthrie was like, you have your story right here. And so I kind of talked to my grandma, my aunt, and my mom, and I got some pictures. And here is my grandma and her mom on the left, on her wedding day. And she made this dress for her. And my grandma honestly doesn't have a lot of pictures of her clothes that her mom made for her. So I just decided to go with the easiest one that was the most photographed, her wedding dress, and took inspiration from that. I found 3 garments. They're on the right here. They're all 100% cotton, a shirt, and the one at the bottom you can't see very well, but there are little like flowers in it, and then a dress. And I'm just making kind of more of like a reinvented modern version of my grandma's wedding dress, taking like the boat neck from her wedding dress. I'm gonna do a bell silhouette, but it's not gonna be a wedding dress. It's gonna be more of a day dress. And then on the left right here was actually Miss Guthrie's suggestion. My grandma hand crocheted a little like just a single chain and then a little flower that I'm gonna incorporate somewhere on the dress.
So special, Emma, so special. All right, well, thank you all. And for those in the audience who would like to follow up in any way, there is my email. And of course, you can follow the work of our department on our Instagram, and you can learn more about our program at our website. And I can stop sharing now, and you can share that information to Marion and Lisa if you like. So you guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I think what's really beautiful about all of them, and this is 6 out of 16 students, is that so many of the students are really looking into their family histories. And you know, when they're busy students, I go, Molly can attest to this, you're busy, you don't have time to be that romantic about your design thinking. And so I'm glad that they're seizing on this opportunity. And I really do think the stories are going to be really beautiful. And they'll be super layered as they think about, you know, being a maker and what's it mean to be a maker. And then to fold in these lovely stories from their own cultures and their own heritage. So hopefully you have some questions for the students.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm really excited to see what you're doing. I was curious, and any one of you can answer this, is that when you reconnect with your family's clothing as a way to find your history, has it prompted you to go further, or is that something that you can help people incorporate, like with custom wedding gowns later? I mean, how do you foresee that storytelling going forward with your work?
I can kind of speak in on that. I think even as designers, like last year we had a project that kind of really pushed us into storytelling, especially with like family history and where we come from, who we are inside. And I think we're still kind of struggling with that ourselves. But there's a lot of self-reflecting and like very deep questions that go into it. And something that I found out recently through a video that Professor Guthrie shared is that your story doesn't necessarily have to be your past or your family or your culture. It could be what you want for the future as well.
Thank you. Well, also that's an interesting thought to think of it as going forward, because we have this history, this recent history of fast fashion where people don't think twice about what they have. And so how do you see as designers getting people to understand that story and cherish it? How would you market this idea to them?
I don't know.
I can speak to that a tiny bit. I feel like everything is so oversaturated nowadays with social media and things like that. And I do think that there are a lot of people that are craving kind of that individuality. And I think that when you create a product that has a story behind it and has meaning, I think that connects so much more with consumers and provides so much more value, so much more to the value of the garment. And they want to keep it around because they have a story that sets them apart. And now they can identify with that story, and that makes them more individual and doesn't get lost in all the media and all that.
Thanks. Do others have questions?
I don't have any questions, but it was refreshing to hear this. You know, my grandmother was an incredible archivist, and she had kept clothing from several generations in the family. And there were some garments that she had worn in the 1950s. And there were several things that I wore of hers when I was going to college. And so, you know, I feel very connected to that. So very interesting.
So as designers, do you see the pendulum? I know that you're all very interested in sustainability and this idea of bringing, reinvigorating past clothing. But do you see do you think overall in your generation that you're seeing people swing back towards that and away from fast fashion overall?
In a way, I don't know if maybe it's just us and, since we're very passionate about sustainability, but I feel like this generation is very headstrong and determined. So it's very nice to see people being called out, and not just called out in like a bad way, but educating others like, hey, I don't think you understand that wearing that dress it's like, it looks great on you, it's a beautiful dress, but also it is like destroying the earth when it was made. And I think with the rise of popularity and thrifting as well, there's more of a gradual change and conversation being brought up.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I'm so excited to see what you guys are making.
I don't know if anybody saw it yesterday, but on the CBS Saturday morning, they had a little blurb on Fashion Week and how designers are grappling with dead stock. and how many thousands of pounds of dead stock that there is, and what they're trying to do to lower that, and then even using, they highlighted some places that are trying to use the dead stock too in their designs. It was interesting.
There's a whole
I think
company
there
that,
are, yeah.
do y'all remember the name of it? That woman that does it, you all, House of, and she
I
does it
don't
all
remember.
too, like big with, it's all data mined where all the fabrics are coming. Oh God, I can't think of the name of it. I'm gonna have to look it up. Maybe I can share it before we get off this call.
There are quite a few of them that do that. I mean, I bought, when I had a fabric store, I bought dead stock fabric from LA. And so there are a lot of companies that sell dead stock.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say how much I appreciated all of the presentations. And one thing that it really sort of brought to my mind was all the generations of grandmothers and even grandfathers who were weavers and spinners, and then especially sort of more recently were fashion designers, truly. And that's such an uplifting thought. Of course, you know, we don't all have the capacity to pick up our thread and needle and follow suit. But at one point, that lineage and the tradition was passed on or was available in schools. So it's so empowering to see this generation picking up the pieces in such a beautiful expression and in face of fast fashion. So thank you for that. And it did make me wonder, like, how many of us grew up with grandmothers that were truly fashion designers? I love that.
I actually had a question
I was
for
excited. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
a question for Inez. You said something about at the end. You were talking about how you're going to incorporate rice into the piece you're making. I was curious what that looks like. Are you still figuring that out?
Yeah, so kind of like I want to use the rice and kind of like beat it into the dress, but like I'm still thinking how and where I want to.
Oh, the real rice, not just like an imagery. Yeah, that's very cool.
I was excited to see you guys using other fabrics that you've found or recycled, but they were all natural, which is great. It's frustrating to see so much polyester. And anyway, that's one of the reasons why I went toward growing my own fiber, because I was getting so frustrated trying to pull things out of the thrift and re-sew them, but then the fabrics got worse and worse and worse. And finally I decided that it really wasn't worth my time to buy these fast fashion pieces, because the fabric is actually literally falling apart as we wash it. So it's nice that you're able to find things. And I love the weaving. The weaving tablecloth is beautiful.
Yeah, I sat and thought, wouldn't that be an amazing business to do wedding gowns out of people's family textiles?
Oh, it'd be a beautiful business. And
Wouldn't that be incredible?
yeah. And there's this, we were talking about it in class the other day. There are these folks, mostly you find them on Instagram, that you talk with them and you show them what you have. And I guess you ship it to them and they take measurements, or you send them pictures, and they actually read, and they refashion all these things for you. So I think it's very kind of niche. But I do hope it picks up. I hope there's like actual brick and mortar places like the Angelina Jolie program that she has up in New York. It's kind of similar, that where you bring pieces into their workshop, and there are trained artisans and tailors that will repair or patch or re-embroider something on a loved garment. So it's starting. It's just, I don't think it's a whisper and not a scream right now. And you would think that with Angelina starting this almost 2 years ago, that it would have a much bigger ripple effect, but it's just, I don't think it's happening at the scale that she had envisioned. I hope it doesn't, I hope it lasts. But it also goes back to this whole concept, and I don't want to get, radical or anything, but of degrowth, of how can parts of fashion be a model of how we can experiment with this type of economy. And and how does that affect other economies, you know? So, because we're so big, and New York Fashion Week is the biggest polluter of Fashion Week of all of them. I saw a headline that we're like twice as big as Paris Fashion Week with our carbon emissions. So
I don't know how many of you, go ahead, sorry.
I was just there with home goods. I've got a friend who works with a woman in Philadelphia who takes old linens, like old antique linens that you might have in your family, and makes drapery out of them. And they're stunning. I mean, they're beautiful drapery. Because she's like, I'm never going to use these tablecloths. And so she's got beautiful window treatments made out of. I just thought that was an interesting way to use them too. And my friend doesn't, she doesn't, she's not a seamstress herself, but there's someone that she works with that does these for her. So that was an interesting market to market. Like, we'll take your old textiles and make new pieces for you.
mm-hmm.
Well, you often see people who are refashioning old quilts into articles of clothing, and that's been a trend.
Yeah. I also think it's going back to the value and values of all of this. It's like, you know, and then how do you encourage people to pay someone to do the work that you can't do? You know, not everyone is willing to pay to even get their shoes fixed, much less take something and have it refashioned. So how do we rewire the brain on how that's a valuable business model or a valuable talent to even have? So yeah.
And that it's worth doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a really interesting Instagram site called the.seam.uk, and it shows these people who repair high-end fashion clothes, and not always high-end, but they do an amazing job, and it's kind of fun. They have videos they put out, and they'll take shoes and fix, repair, designer shoes, or they'll fix a moth-eaten sweater, or they'll, somebody's been out and ripped their dress and they'll like resequin it all. And it's pretty fun to watch. They're pretty impressive, the jobs they do.
Yeah, I think like an important thing, an aspect of that is like people only take things to be repaired that they actually care about enough to repair, if that makes sense. So I think that just goes back to what we were all talking about how like you need to make sure we retain the value in our clothing. Like no one's gonna take a Sheen dress to be repaired because it's not worth it. They don't care about it enough to go spend more money on it to repair it. So it's like switching that consumer mindset into investing into pieces that will down the line save you so much money, because it's better to keep repairing that one piece that you love so much because it has value to it and it's a quality garment than just keep buying more stuff that's going to fall apart on you.
So as designers, what is that about, we've all purchased a piece of clothing that we've loved for years and we really like it, but we keep it because it's a really good piece of clothing, but it's not very fashionable. How do you see the fashion industry sort of right now? We're at that everything's new and fresh and you have to have new and fresh. And then how do you take your idea that you cherish that clothing and how does it remain fashionable? Because I think many people want to look good and feel like they're fashionable.
I can answer that. I would personally say just making like little adjustments to the clothing. Like if you think that, for example, I just put like ribbon on the ends of this pair of pants that I have. They were too long. I just like made the cuff go up and then put ribbon on the ends. And I think it makes it look like cuter and like they were like a little bit out of style, but I think it just like enhanced them. And yeah.
It's a good idea.
Also how it's styled too. I see a lot of girls on social media, they'll say like, this is like a skirt from 2 years ago. I was about to donate it or sell it or repurpose it. But then I tried it on with this, all of these layers and now it's cool. Or I'll wear it as a dress or a top or try to style it different.
Yeah, I think that also comes into like design too. Like when we're designing things, I think we definitely need to like think about ways that they can be worn multiple ways. I forgot to mention this, but like in the dress that I want to create with this drape, I really want to put like little bustles on it. So you can kind of bustle it in different directions. So you can wear it as like a long gown, or you can also just wear it to like dinner or something. So I think just as designers, especially like making it normal to kind of incorporate modular elements into your design, to just encourage people to wear it so many more different ways than just one, because it gets old.
Well, I think the other thing is, I know in historical garments, the seam allowances were huge. They were like 2, 3 inches. So that the women, because cloth was so expensive, the women would take them to their seamstress, have them taken out and refashioned, but there was enough seam, and there enough seam that they could let it out and wear it as a maternity dress and then take it back in. So they kept the cloth for years and years and years, but they had new dresses out of it all the time. But of course, now we're getting to, how much cost can we cut? So that now that the seam allowances are like, you're lucky if you get a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And so you can't, even if you can't save it, even if you wanted to, because there's no seam to let out. So it's another.
Yeah, you touched on an important thing too, Susan. It's like the average, my students just listened to this woman named Dillis, Dillis Williams, who is part of the London College of Fashion and does this fashion cultures program. And the value side is like we talk about, people just don't understand the value of a textile. They don't know the whole process, and why should they? Right? They don't, it's not an SAT question. It's not even anything they learn in school. It's nothing that anybody approaches. And so it's going to be a hard fought battle to redirect a busy consumer's mind. But we're trying to use this word as citizen as well. That's what I was trying to get to, was that word. Because with citizens, you're giving and you're taking. With the consumer, you're just assume that you're just consuming. And so there's all these little, like one of the students mentioned, there's all these really hard nuggets we're going to have to like chip away at before we can, I don't know, to see like any kind of saturation. So I'm just so pleased that these students have the dedication to be part of this, and hope that they will also inspire their classmates, because some of their classmates don't, they're playing catch up a little bit. Some students who don't have the exposure to this kind of experience or learning style. So
I had a question for Susan, actually. Did you say that you grew your own fiber?
Yeah, you guys, Kimberly brought a bunch of students last year to the farm, and I have Angora goats and tuna sheep, and I have them shorn and then sent off and have the fabric made, or the wool and fleece made into felt bats, or not felted, they're bats that I then come back and then I felt and make into coats. And actually pot holders, because I was trying to figure out what do I do with all the waste and the extra. So I'm making pot holders, and they work really great.
That's really
So.
cool.
you should go with us, Emma, next March.
Yeah, I would love to.
Fantastic. What else?
And just, that many of the people on this call are producers of fiber. And so if you all ever have an interest in seeing a farm or want to know any more about fiber, there's a lot of great resources to help you as well.
I just wanted to mention I'm in South Chesterfield, and we have a farm. I raise a small herd of Angora goats and a couple of Angora bunnies for their fleece. So I'm close to VCU, so you'd be welcome to visit here too.
Who's that? Maria Baker.
Maria Baker.
Also, Kimberly, I assume that you follow all the fiber festivals.
Not all, but because I am not a knitter or I love fiber, but I don't know how to manipulate it. So
Anyway, I don't know if your students are, so there's Fall Fiber Festival coming up. So
yes.
On October 5th and 6th. But and I know there are other ones that Marion has a table at the Berryville one, and Maryland Sheep and Wool. But if anybody wants to come by and help me, I'm going to do the table with the tuna sheep and the Fibershed in Montpelier, in Orange County.
Yep.
So
that's a fun show. And just to even go for the day, because they do have the dog trials where they're herding the sheep, and it's outside. It's a beautiful show there.
You can see a sheep being sheared usually. Yeah.
Which I think they're doing sheep to shawl. Aren't they doing sheep to shawl?
Yeah, I think on Sunday they usually do that. Yeah, as I recall.
And if the students aren't familiar with that, they have 3 to 4 hours to get it shorn off the sheep, and then they've warped a loom, and then they weave it into a shawl
Don't
within.
forget, they got to spin it. They have to
They gotta
shear
spin
They
it
have to
first.
spin
Thank
it,
you.
yeah.
It's stunning to see. It really is. It's sort of the Olympics of fiber.
Yeah.
It's a team of like 5 to 6 people. I'm not sure it's 5 or 6 that, and they
So
actually
Carthage Hand Spinners Guild did one mid to end of August. We met here at the farm, and in my barn studio, we washed a fin sheep fleece and then dried it, had it dry for the week. And then the following weekend, we met at the Chesterfield County Fair, and they came with the loom already warped, and we each of us brought combs or cards, and we brought our wheels, and we started combing and carding and spinning and weaving, and the shawl was done in 3.5 hours.
Yep. It's amazing. It's really fun to watch, especially if you haven't never seen, something, a piece of cloth made from the sheep all the way to being a finished product. It's amazing.
Talk about making you cherish every bit of clothing you have.
Yeah.
It's so incredible.
Oh, and every bit of fleece too. I started a little experiment this summer of when I skirted fleece, saving what was skirted off, and I've swinted it in bins in my garden to see what it'll turn out to be.
It's a great fertilizer.
Yeah.
So does anyone have other questions? We still have 15 minutes.
Well, we still need to go over the submission, but first, just thank you, Mrs. Guthrie,
So
and
much.
all of the students. I enjoyed seeing your projects so much, and hope to see them in person in November if they're finished.
Yeah, it's inspiring. It also makes me incredibly happy to think that our future is so bright with such great care and thoughtfulness and design. So.
Yes.
I'll add to that about being really grateful to see the next generation kind of. There are some people who really care about where the fabrics come from. We were at Bethany Beach a few weeks ago, and I was cold. I went to get a sweatshirt, and there literally was not I decided to find one. There was not a single 100% natural sweatshirt in the entire city. I went to 12 different stores. No one had a natural piece. It was all blends, all poly blends. I was just like, oh, so
where were all your sweaters, Nancy?
Well, I didn't know it was going to be cold. I just didn't pack something warm. So I was like, I just wrapped myself in my towel because I can't buy these. But I think it really is an uphill battle. It's a battle. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
So
battle is a challenge.
I'm glad people are paying attention, because a lot of people are not, which is sad.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, how about telling us a little bit about the challenge so everyone's aware of the rules?
Okay, so we are going to have our gathering on November 3rd. So put that on your calendars. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how to submit your piece or pieces. Before I do that, in the chat, I want to put in the link to our form. And so you can click on it, and it will open into a new window. And so it will be there for you. Otherwise, I will be putting it up on the IO group, and we'll put it in an email as well. So here's the form, the submission form. And the top part, can everybody see that? I think they can. Yes. So the top part is just, your demographics. Who are you? Your name, your email. And so the title of your work, it can be very creative, or it can be my sweater. The stream that you're following, if you're doing the Embrace Our Place, the Re-envision, or the Borrow Across the Boundaries. If you need to refresh your memory, all the information about those streams is on the website, and you can find that. The next question is about the materials used. So, for instance, you can put in 100% mohair fiber from my farm, or you can put in linen tablecloth woven by my great-grandfather, that kind of thing. If you know the source, like if it's something that's thrifted, and you know the source, like it came from my family, or if you don't know the source, just as much information as you might have is as good as you can get. Your maker statement is kind of like a bio. No, that's not right. The maker statement is like your artist statement. So what is your inspiration? What was your process? And maybe what did you learn about in this challenge? I'll just tell you, I decided to make t-shirt. I have all these t-shirts that I wanted to get out of the not put in the landfill. So I decided to make t-shirt yarn, which is really boring. I'll just say that. I'm not proud of what I've made, but it's like a big experiment. I'm trying to get excited about it. So, what I'm learning from this challenge, I've learned a lot about what I like and what I don't like. So I would be putting that in my maker statement, what I liked and what I didn't like about the process. Would I do this again? That kind of thing. A short bio about yourself, or if you're on a team. I don't know that we have any teams this year. And then if you are going to come to the gathering, let us know with a yes or no. I did not put maybe. So if you think it's a maybe, put yes. And the reason for that is that when we'll have a little fashion show during the gathering. And so if you're going to be there, then I print out these sheets so that Marion or whoever is going to be the MC has your sheet there, and they can talk about your project while you walk the runway. Okay. And if it says no, I won't be printing out a sheet for you. So if you think it's a maybe, then say yes. And then pictures. So we need 2 different pictures. This is the part where I need you guys to kind of pay attention. I need a picture of the whole garment, and I need a detail picture. And they need to be at least 2,000 pixels per inch in both directions. For those of you who have an iPhone, take it off live. If you don't take it off live, that's the worst thing for me, because it takes me a lot to then process that. It takes me a lot to take it off of that live thing that iPhone does. So if you don't put it in live, that would help me a lot. And if you don't know what I'm talking about and you have a question, just email us and I can help you with that. I can walk you through it on your phone. Okay. And then before you upload these photos, because see how you can upload the file right here in this document. But before you upload the file, you need to label your photo. Because if it just says IMG, 3,956 something or other, right? I don't know who you are. I don't know the name of your project. I don't know who sent it, right? So you need to relabel your photograph with your name and the name of your project, and whether it's the full or the detail. That's what I would like. I can figure out if it's the full or the detail, but it would help me a lot if I didn't have to do so much, and if you did a little bit extra to help me. Does that make sense? And again, if you are confused about the pictures, send us an email. I'll make a time when we can talk on the phone. I can walk you through it, and we can get it so that it's easy for everybody. So that, yeah, and you can just upload those files right here in the document. So that's how you submit it. And we asked it to be done by the 18th of October, which is not here. I thought it was in here. I will be adding to this document to say by October 18th. If it isn't totally done, you can send the information and then tell me that the picture will be sent later. Okay. The most important thing is that I know like how many projects we have. Yeah, if the picture isn't sent to me until November, that's okay, because we don't need the picture for the event. We need the information by the event, but we don't need the picture by the event. And also, we will have a photographer at the event who has been voluntold that he gets to take pictures. So again, if you are unsure about taking the picture, we will have somebody at the event that can take pictures.
Great.
Any questions? No?
Doesn't look like it.
I have a question. When is that Berryville fiber?
It is September. It's the last weekend. Is it the 27th?
29th.
Okay.
And if you can make it, stop by and see us. You'll see the Chesapeake Fibershed banner.
Right. And I'm Flying Goat Farm, and I have a booth there. I think Solitude is also having a booth there. They're a member. Who else? Is there anybody else who's a member? Oh,
Avalon Springs.
Avalon Springs is a member. She will be there. Abuelita is a member. She'll be there. Yeah, it's a good show. That one's, usually the weather has broken by that time, and it's a nice outdoor show with some buildings, and it has a really good feeling to it.
All right.
Well, thank you again for letting us.
Thank you again. We
Thank
so
you.
appreciate you being here and showing us what you're up to. It's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully I think everybody on here will hopefully submit. I'm going to bring I'll caravan, whatever. I'm not sure how many students can actually come in person, but I'm there to set up their projects and to promote their work while we're in Maryland. So
Awesome.
Great.
That sounds great. We'll look forward to seeing everybody soon.
all righty. Thank you again to my
Thank
students.
you.
Appreciate you.
Bye. Thank you
Thanks.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.